My name is Ethan Cole, and I'm about to tell you how my wife handed me the perfect weapon to destroy her life. She just didn't know it yet. My ex is coming to stay for a week, Tara announced over her morning coffee, not even looking up from her phone. If you're uncomfortable with that, maybe you should get a hotel. I paused, my spoon halfway to my mouth. 38 years old, and I'd heard some ridiculous things in my time as an IT project manager, but this took the cake. My wife of 15 years was telling me to vacate our luxury apartment so her ex-boyfriend could move in. Your ex, I repeated slowly. Rafe Sinclair, the finance guy with the trust fund and the superiority complex. He's going through a rough patch, she said, still scrolling. He needs somewhere to stay while he finds a new place. I set down my spoon and really looked at her. Tara had always been beautiful. That's what drew me to her initially. Blonde, sharp-featured, with the kind of confidence that made people listen when she spoke. As an HR executive, she knew exactly how to manipulate situations to her advantage. I was just too stupid to realize I'd become one of those situations. And you thought I'd be fine with this because? She finally looked up, her green eyes cold. Because you're a reasonable person, Ethan. Or at least I thought you were. There it was, the gaslighting, the subtle implication that any objection I raised would make me the unreasonable one. Classic Tara. You know what? I said, standing up. You're absolutely right. I'll get a hotel. Her eyebrows shot up. She'd expected a fight, maybe some jealous tantrum she could use to paint me as the controlling husband. Instead, I was agreeing with her. Oh, good. I'm glad you're being mature about this. Mature, I repeated. Yeah, that's me. I grabbed my laptop bag and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard her call out, He'll be here tomorrow night. Perfect. That gave me exactly 24 hours. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The first call I made was to Marcus Thompson, my buddy who taught high school gym and had a truck. The second was to a moving company that specialized in emergency relocations. The third was to the Meridian Hotel downtown. Not just any room, but their executive suite. If Tara wanted me out, I was going to do it in style. You're moving out? Marcus asked when he showed up that evening with his pickup. Just like that? Not moving out, I corrected, directing the movers to pack everything that belonged to me. She asked for space. I'm giving her all the space she can handle. The beauty of living with someone for 15 years is that you know exactly what belongs to whom. Every piece of furniture we'd bought together, every wedding gift, every shared purchase, I left it all. But my clothes, my books, my electronics, my personal items, even the coffee maker I'd brought into the marriage, gone. The movers worked with professional efficiency. By midnight, my half of our life together was loaded into their truck. I stood in the living room, looking at the empty spaces where my things used to be. The apartment looked lopsided now, like a smile missing half its teeth. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Thanks for helping me realize how much I don't need. The lease is in both our names, so I've arranged for my portion to be transferred to Rafe effective immediately. Enjoy your space. A. The next morning, I was sipping coffee in my hotel suite, watching the sunrise over the city skyline, when my phone started buzzing. Tara's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again and again. The text started around noon. Where are you? The apartment is empty. What did you do with your stuff? Ethan, this isn't funny. Call me back now. I was in the middle of a video conference with my team when she showed up at my office. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I could see her at my desk, gesticulating wildly at my assistant, Jenny. I held up one finger to my colleagues, give me a minute, and muted my microphone. I'll be right back, I told the team, then stepped outside. Tara spun around when she saw me. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, and there were dark circles under her eyes. What the hell is wrong with you? She hissed, trying to keep her voice down in the open office environment. Nothing at all, I said pleasantly. How's Rafe enjoying the apartment? There's nothing in the apartment. It looks like we got robbed. Interesting way to put it, I said. I prefer to think of it as decluttering. You wanted space for your house guest, so I removed all my clutter. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This is insane. You can't just... Actually, I can. I pulled a folded document from my jacket pocket. Lease modification. My name's been removed, and Rafe's been added. You two can split the rent however you want. Her face went white. You can't do that without my permission? Read the fine print, sweetheart. Either party can modify or terminate with 30 days' notice. I gave you 24 hours, which is more generous than you gave me. Jenny was pretending not to watch, but I could see her trying to hide a smile. The whole office was getting a show, and Tara was starting to realize it. "People are staring," she whispered. "Then maybe we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. Say, your new love nest?" The color drained completely from her face. "It's not like that." "Sure it isn't." I turned to head back to my meeting. "Give Rafe my regards. I hope he likes the Echo." That evening, Marcus joined me for dinner in the hotel restaurant. He was grinning like an idiot. "Dude, you should have seen your building's group chat today. Apparently some guy showed up with suitcases and started screaming in the hallway when he realized the apartment was empty." Rafe always did have a flair for drama. Mrs. Patterson from 4B said he was yelling about lawsuits and fraud. Gus had to threaten to call security. Gus was the building's super, a 60-year-old ex-cop who'd seen everything twice. He also had a talent for being in the right place at the right time to witness the most interesting drama. "I should probably send Gus a thank you card," I said. "What's your next move?" I swirled the wine in my glass, thinking. Well, funny thing. Tara's boss called me this afternoon. Apparently they're looking for a new IT director, someone with project management experience who understands corporate environments. Marcus nearly choked on his beer. "You're kidding." "Nope. Interviews tomorrow, and the position would make me a department head." I smiled, which means I'd be Tara's new boss. That's either the best revenge ever or the worst idea in history. Why not both? The Meridian Corporation occupied 15 floors of a glass tower downtown. I'd been inside exactly twice before, once for Tara's company Christmas party, and once to pick her up when her car was in the shop. Now I was sitting in the executive conference room, interviewing for a position that would put me in charge of the entire IT department. "Your resume is impressive, Mr. Cole," said Patricia Wells, the VP of Operations. She was a sharp woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and the kind of no-nonsense attitude that made her successful in a male-dominated industry. "But I have to ask, you do realize your wife works here?" "I'm aware," I said. "I hope that won't be a problem. I'm very good at keeping personal and professional matters separate." She studied me for a moment. "Can you start Monday?" That was 3 days ago. Now I was settling into my corner office, reviewing departmental reports and getting acquainted with my new team. Tara worked 2 floors down in human resources, which meant our paths would cross regularly. I was looking forward to it. My first official act as IT director was to implement a new security protocol that required all department heads to review their team's computer usage reports. Purely routine, of course. The fact that it would give me access to every email, every file transfer, and every website visit made by HR personnel was just a happy coincidence. Tara's usage report made for fascinating reading. 17 personal emails to Rafe during work hours in the past week. 3 hotel reservations made on company time. And most interesting of all, a series of expense reports that showed her company credit card being used for restaurants and bars she'd never taken me to. I was studying the data when my assistant knocked on my door. "Mr. Cole, there's a Tara Cole here to see you. She says she's your wife." "Send her in." Tara entered my office like she owned the place, which was ironic considering I now outranked her. She'd dressed carefully, professional but appealing, probably hoping to use her looks to her advantage. Too bad I was immune to her charms now. "Nice office," she said, glancing around at the city view and modern furniture. "Thanks. The company treats department heads well." She sat down across from my desk without being invited. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About this ridiculous situation. You can't seriously plan to work here." I leaned back in my chair. "Why not? It's a great opportunity. Better salary, better benefits, and the work is challenging." "Because it's weird, Ethan. We're getting divorced, and now you're going to be my boss." "Are we getting divorced? I don't recall you mentioning that before you invited your boyfriend to move in." Her jaw tightened. "He's not my boyfriend." "Right. He's just a friend who needs somewhere to stay. A friend you take to expensive restaurants and luxury hotels." I turned my computer screen toward her. Company credit card records are fascinating reading. The color drained from her face. "You can't access those without HR approval." "Actually, as IT director, I can access any company system for security purposes. And using corporate funds for personal expenses is definitely a security concern." She stood up abruptly. "This is harassment." "No, this is business. But speaking of harassment, I should probably mention that all employees are required to review and sign the updated Code of Conduct policy. Something about maintaining professional boundaries and avoiding conflicts of interest." I handed her a folder. "You'll want to read Section 12 carefully. It covers relationships with external parties who might compromise company security." She snatched the folder from my hand. "You're enjoying this." I'm doing my job, just like you're doing yours. I smiled pleasantly. Speaking of which, I'll need you to attend the department heads meeting tomorrow. We're discussing the new expense reporting procedures. After she left, I called down to security. Hey, Mike, it's Ethan Cole in IT. I need you to review the parking garage footage from last Tuesday around 6 p.m. There might be a security issue I need to investigate. The footage showed exactly what I'd hoped it would. Tara and Rafe in what could generously be called a passionate embrace next to her car. Not exactly the behavior of someone who was just helping a friend. I made a copy of the file and stored it in a secure folder. Evidence for later. The next morning brought an interesting development. Monica Pierce, one of Tara's closest friends and a fellow HR employee, was spotted leaving the office with James Morrison, the married VP of Finance, by Gus, who happened to be delivering a package to the building and had an excellent view of the parking garage. Gus called me personally to share this information, probably because he was still entertained by the drama from my apartment building. I thanked him and made a note to send him a gift card. The department heads meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. in the main conference room. All the major players would be there. Patricia Wells, James Morrison, Tara, and the other department heads. It was the perfect opportunity to present my findings about expense account irregularities. As you can see from these reports, I said, clicking through my presentation, there's been a significant increase in questionable expenses over the past 6 months. Restaurant bills for amounts that exceed our per-person limits, hotel charges that don't correspond with approved business travel, and entertainment expenses that lack proper documentation. Tara was trying to look invisible in her chair. James Morrison was sweating despite the air conditioning. What are you suggesting? Patricia asked. I think we need to implement stricter oversight, maybe require secondary approval for all expenses over a certain threshold, and perhaps we should audit the accounts that show the most irregularities. I clicked to the next slide, which showed a graph of expense patterns by employee. Tara's name was prominently displayed at the top of the list. I'll need HR to investigate these discrepancies and determine if any disciplinary action is warranted. Patricia nodded approvingly. Excellent work, Ethan. Tara, I'll need you to prepare a full report on these accounts by Friday. The meeting ended with Tara looking like she wanted to crawl under the table. As people filed out, James Morrison lingered behind. Cole, can I have a word? Of course. When we were alone, he closed the door and turned to face me. What's your game here? I'm not sure what you mean. The expense audit, the security protocols. You're targeting specific people. I smiled. I'm targeting irregularities. If specific people happen to be responsible for those irregularities, that's not my fault. He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. You better be careful. You're new here, and you don't want to make enemies. You're right, I said. I don't want to make enemies. I want to make examples. That afternoon, I received an interesting email from an anonymous account. It contained photos of James Morrison and Monica Pierce at a hotel restaurant, looking very cozy for two people who were supposedly just colleagues. The timestamp showed it was taken during work hours on a day when both had called in sick. I forwarded the email to Patricia Wells with a note. Received this anonymously. Thought you should be aware of potential policy violations. By 5 p.m., Monica was called into Patricia's office. By 5:30, she was cleaning out her desk. Tara appeared at my office door as I was packing up for the day. You destroyed her career, she said. I didn't take those photos. I didn't make her lie about being sick. I didn't make her violate company policy. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. I just made sure the right people saw the evidence. This has to stop, Ethan. What has to stop? Me doing my job? You know what I mean. I walked around my desk until I was standing directly in front of her. No, Tara, I don't think I do. Why don't you explain it to me? She was quiet for a long moment. I never meant for things to go this far. What things? Your affair, your lies, or just getting caught? It's not an affair. Then what is it? She couldn't answer. We both knew why. I headed for the door. Lock up when you leave. Security cameras are recording everything now. The Meridian Hotel's penthouse suite came with a full kitchen, a dining room that seated 12, and a living area perfect for entertaining. I'd been living there for 2 weeks, and it was time to christen it properly. You're throwing a party? Marcus asked when I called him Thursday night. A housewarming party. Well, suite-warming party. This Saturday, 7 p.m. Who are you inviting? Everyone, I said. Co-workers, neighbors from the old building, mutual friends, anyone who knows both Tara and me. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. Or justice. Depends on your perspective. I spent Friday afternoon sending out invitations via email and text. The message was simple. Join me for drinks and appetizers as I celebrate my new living situation. Come see how the other half lives. I included the hotel address and suite number. Most people responded enthusiastically. A few asked if Tara would be there. I replied that everyone was welcome, but I couldn't speak for her schedule. Saturday evening arrived with perfect weather. The suite looked impressive with the city lights twinkling beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. I'd hired a catering service and stocked the bar with top-shelf liquor. If I was going to make a statement, I wanted it to be memorable. The first guests arrived at 7 sharp. Jenny from my office, along with 2 other IT department employees. Then came Gus from my old building, wearing his best shirt and grinning like he was about to witness something spectacular. "Nice place, Mr. Cole," he said, accepting a beer. "Beats that apartment, doesn't it?" "In every possible way." By 8 o'clock, the suite was packed. Co-workers, neighbors, old friends. Exactly the cross-section of people I'd hoped for. The conversation was lively, the drinks were flowing, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. That's when Tara arrived. She walked in like she belonged there, wearing a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Rafe was with her, looking uncomfortable in an expensive suit that couldn't quite disguise his nervous energy. The conversation didn't stop, but it definitely shifted. People were watching now, waiting to see what would happen. "Ethan," Tara said, approaching me with a forced smile. "Lovely party." "Thanks. I'm glad you could make it." I turned to Rafe. "And you brought a guest. How nice." Rafe extended his hand. "Rafe Sinclair? I don't think we've been properly introduced." I looked at his hand for a moment before shaking it. "Ethan Cole, Tara's husband." The word husband hung in the air like a challenge. Several people nearby had stopped their conversations to listen. "Yes? Well," Rafe said, "I appreciate you letting me stay at the apartment while I look for a place." "Oh, you're still looking?" I asked innocently. "It's been 2 weeks. The market must be tighter than I thought." Tara stepped closer. "Can we talk privately?" Actually, I was just about to make a toast. I picked up a champagne glass and tapped it with a knife until the room went quiet. "Thank you all for coming tonight. It means a lot to have so many friends here as I start this new chapter of my life." I paused, looking around the room. Some of you might be wondering about the circumstances that led to this change. Well, it's simple, really. My wife asked me to move out so her ex-boyfriend could move in, so I did. A murmur went through the crowd. Tara's face went pale. But here's the thing about getting what you ask for. Sometimes it's not what you expected. Tara wanted space, so I gave her all of it. She wanted freedom, so I removed all the obstacles. She wanted transparency. I pulled out my phone, so I thought I'd share some transparency with all of you. I connected my phone to the suite's entertainment system. The large wall-mounted TV came to life, displaying a series of text messages. These are from Tara's phone to Rafe over the past month. I think they're quite illuminating. The messages scrolled across the screen, each one more damning than the last. Plans for romantic dinners, complaints about having to deal with Ethan, discussions about their future together once the divorce was finalized. The room was silent, except for the sound of people's sharp intakes of breath. "Ethan, stop," Tara whispered. "Oh, but we're just getting started." I clicked to the next screen. These are expense reports from Tara's company credit card. Notice the dates and locations. Interesting how they correspond with Rafe's calendar, don't you think? Rafe stepped forward. "That's enough." "Is it? Because I have more. Security footage from the parking garage at Meridian Corporation, hotel receipts, restaurant bills. Should I keep going?" "You're humiliating her," someone called out from the crowd. "No," I said. "I'm revealing her. There's a difference." Tara was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "Please, Ethan, not like this." "How then?" "In private, where you could lie and manipulate and gaslight me some more, where you could convince me that I was the problem." I turned back to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the real Tara Cole. Not the charming HR executive you all know. Not the devoted wife she pretended to be for 15 years. This is who she really is when she thinks no one is watching." Rafe grabbed Tara's arm. "We're leaving." "Good idea," I said. "The door's right behind you." As they headed for the exit, Rafe turned back. "This isn't over." "You're right," I said. "It's not?" After they left, the party continued, but the mood had shifted. People were talking in small groups, processing what they'd witnessed. Some looked uncomfortable, others seemed fascinated by the drama. Marcus appeared at my side. "Well, that was something." "Just getting started," I said. Jenny from the office approached us. "Ethan, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but there's something you should know about Monday's staff meeting. What about it? Patricia Wells is planning to announce a restructuring of the HR department. Tara's position is being eliminated. I tried to look surprised. Really? That's unfortunate. Is it, though? Jenny asked with a knowing smile. Around midnight, after the last guests had left and the catering staff had cleaned up, I stood alone in the suite looking out at the city. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but this is just the beginning. R. I smiled and typed back, looking forward to it. Monday morning brought news that spread through the Meridian Corporation like wildfire. Tara's position in HR had been eliminated as part of a departmental restructuring. She was given 2 weeks' notice and a minimal severance package. I learned this from Patricia Wells during our weekly department head meeting. The expense account irregularities you uncovered were more extensive than we initially thought, she explained. We had to take decisive action. I understand, I said. Will there be any legal ramifications? We're still reviewing that, but the evidence you provided was quite comprehensive. After the meeting, I returned to my office to find a voice message from my lawyer, David Chen. I'd hired him the previous week to handle my divorce proceedings. Ethan, call me back immediately. We have a problem. I dialed his number. What's wrong? Your wife's attorney is claiming you've been harassing her. They're threatening to file a restraining order and use it to influence the divorce settlement. On what grounds? They say you've been stalking her, accessing her private information, and causing her emotional distress. I laughed. David, I work in the same building. Everything I accessed was through legitimate business channels, and the only emotional distress I've caused is by telling the truth. That may be, but we need to be careful. They're also claiming you hid marital assets by moving into an expensive hotel suite. The hotel suite is a temporary living arrangement. All our joint assets are fully documented and accounted for. Good, because I have some interesting news of my own. Remember how you asked me to investigate Rafe Sinclair's background? What did you find? He's married. I nearly dropped the phone. What? Married for 12 years to a woman named Lisa Sinclair. They live in a house in Westchester that he purchased 2 years ago. No divorce filings, no separation agreements. As far as the law is concerned, he's a married man having an affair with your wife. This was better than I'd hoped. Does his wife know about Tara? Not yet, but she's about to. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Mr. Cole, this is Lisa Sinclair. I believe we need to talk. We met at a coffee shop downtown, away from both our usual haunts. Lisa Sinclair was an attractive woman in her late 30s with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She looked tired, like someone who'd been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. Your lawyer contacted me, she said without preamble. He told me about my husband and your wife. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Are you? Because from what I understand, you've been systematically destroying their lives for the past month. I studied her face. Are you angry about that? She was quiet for a moment. I should be, but honestly, I'm impressed. Impressed? Rafe has been lying to me for years. Different women, different excuses, but always lies. I've been gathering evidence for my own divorce, but I never had enough to really hurt him. She smiled grimly. Until now. What do you need from me? Everything you have, financial records, photos, communications. I want to take him for everything he's worth. And in return? I testify in your divorce proceedings about their affair. I provide documentation of Rafe's pattern of infidelity, and I make sure your wife understands exactly what kind of man she threw away her marriage for. We shook hands across the table. Over the next week, Lisa and I worked together like a well-oiled machine. She provided financial records showing that Rafe had been using joint credit cards to pay for his affairs. I provided evidence of his relationship with Tara. Together, we built a case that would destroy both of them in court. The first blow came when Lisa served Rafe with divorce papers at his temporary office. He'd been working as a freelance consultant since losing his job at Meridian. She did it during a client meeting with witnesses present. The second blow came when Tara's severance package was revoked. Patricia Wells discovered that she'd been using company resources to conduct personal business, including helping Rafe with his job search. The third blow was the most devastating. Lisa had connections in the finance industry, and she used them to spread word about Rafe's creative expense reporting and his habit of mixing personal and professional relationships. Within days, his consulting contracts were canceled, and his professional reputation was in ruins. But Tara wasn't finished fighting. On Friday afternoon, she showed up at my hotel suite unannounced. Security called to ask if I wanted to see her, and I said yes. I was curious what her next move would be. She looked different when she walked in. Thinner, more fragile, like someone who hadn't been sleeping well. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like desperation. "Nice place," she said, looking around the suite. "It serves its purpose. Ethan, we need to talk. Really talk." "About what?" "About ending this. About finding a way to move forward that doesn't destroy both of us." I gestured to the couch. "Sit down." She perched on the edge of the cushion, her hands folded in her lap. "I know you're angry. I know I hurt you. But this has gone too far." "Has it?" "You've cost me my job, my reputation, my friends. Isn't that enough?" "Is it? Let me ask you something, Tara. If I hadn't found out about Rafe, how long would you have kept lying to me?" She was quiet. "Months? Years? Would you have divorced me eventually, or just kept me around as the stable, reliable husband while you had your fun on the side?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me." She started crying again. "I don't know. I was confused. I felt trapped. Rafe made me feel alive again." "And I made you feel what? Bored? Suffocated?" "Safe," she whispered. "You made me feel safe. But I didn't want safe anymore." "Well, congratulations. You're definitely not safe now." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "What do you want, Ethan? What will it take for you to stop?" I considered the question seriously. "I want you to understand what you threw away. I want you to feel what I felt when I realized that 15 years of marriage meant so little to you that you'd risk it all for a few months of excitement with a married man." "He told me he was divorced." "And you believed him because you wanted to, just like you believed your own lies about what you were doing." She stood up abruptly. "I can't do this anymore." "You don't have to. The divorce papers are already filed. Sign them, and we can both move on." "And if I don't?" I smiled. "Then we go to court, and everything becomes public record. Every text message, every expense report, every lie you told. Is that really what you want?" She headed for the door, then turned back. "I used to love you, you know." "I know," I said. "I loved you too. That's what makes this so satisfying." After she left, I poured myself a drink and stood at the window, watching the city lights flicker in the darkness. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa Sinclair. "Rafe just got served with papers from his creditors. Apparently he's been living beyond his means for years. Thought you'd want to know." I typed back, "Perfect timing." The endgame was approaching, and I was ready for it. The Meridian Corporation's annual charity gala was the social event of the year. 500 of the city's most influential people gathered at the Grand Ballroom to raise money for local charities and see who was rising or falling in the corporate hierarchy. I hadn't planned to attend until Patricia Wells personally invited me. "The company is buying a table," she explained. "I'd like you to represent the IT department." "I'd be honored." What she didn't mention was that Tara had also been invited before her termination, and her ticket was still valid. I learned this from Jenny, who had connections in the event planning committee. "She's coming with Rafe," Jenny told me. "Apparently they're making their relationship public." "How romantic," I said. "Their debut as a couple at a corporate function." "You're not worried about running into them?" "Not at all. I'm looking forward to it." Lisa Sinclair had been busy over the past 2 weeks. Her divorce attorney was a shark named Rebecca Torres, who specialized in high-asset cases involving infidelity. Together, they'd uncovered a pattern of financial deception that went back years. "Rafe's been hiding money in offshore accounts," Lisa explained during one of our strategy sessions. "He's also been claiming business expenses for personal trips, including several with your wife. Can you prove it?" Rebecca has a forensic accountant who's very good at following paper trails. We have bank records, credit card statements, and hotel receipts going back 18 months. "What's your timeline?" "We're filing amended divorce papers next week, and we're sending copies of everything to the IRS. The night of the gala, I arrived fashionably late in a tailored tuxedo that cost more than Tara's monthly salary. The grand ballroom was spectacular, with crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and enough flowers to stock a florist shop. I found my table and made polite conversation with my colleagues. Patricia Wells looked elegant in a navy gown, and she seemed pleased to see me networking with the other department heads. "You're fitting in well here," she said during cocktail hour. "I appreciate the opportunity." There may be more opportunities coming. We're considering expanding the IT department, and we'll need someone to oversee the growth. A promotion, more money, more responsibility, more power. Life was definitely looking up. That's when I spotted them across the room. Tara looked stunning in a red dress that probably maxed out her credit card. Rafe was beside her in a rental tuxedo, trying to project confidence but failing to hide his discomfort. They were standing with a group of people I didn't recognize, probably Rafe's remaining contacts in the finance world. I excused myself from my table and walked over. Tara, Rafe, what a pleasant surprise. They turned, and I saw the flash of panic in both their eyes. Ethan, Tara said carefully, I didn't know you'd be here. Patricia invited me to represent the IT department. It's quite an honor. I smiled at Rafe. How are you, Rafe? Still consulting? His jaw tightened. Business is good. I'm glad to hear it. The market can be so unpredictable. Before he could respond, the lights dimmed and the evening's program began. We returned to our respective tables, but I could feel them watching me throughout dinner. The charity auction was the highlight of the evening. Various items were up for bid: vacation packages, artwork, dinner with local celebrities. I participated enthusiastically, winning a weekend at a luxury spa resort for an amount that made several people at my table whistle appreciatively. Generous of you, Patricia commented. It's for a good cause. After the auction, there was dancing and more networking. I was talking with the VP of Marketing when my phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. It's time. I excused myself and walked to the front of the ballroom where a large screen was set up for the evening's presentation. The AV technician was a friend of a friend who owed me a favor from my previous job. Everything ready? I asked him quietly. Just give me the signal. I returned to the crowd and found the microphone that had been used for the auction. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for just a moment. The room gradually quieted. I could see Tara and Rafe at their table, looking confused and worried. I know we've already seen the official presentation about tonight's charity, but I wanted to share something else with you, a different kind of charitable cause. I nodded to the AV technician. The screen came to life with a slideshow titled, The Real Cost of Infidelity. The first slide showed a photo of Tara and Rafe kissing in a restaurant. The second showed expense reports with highlighted charges. The third showed bank records with suspicious transfers. You see, I continued, sometimes people use other people's money to fund their affairs. Company credit cards, joint bank accounts, even charitable donations that never reach their intended destinations. The room was completely silent now. I could see Patricia Wells staring at the screen with a mixture of shock and fury. The woman in these photos is my wife. The man is her lover. Together, they've stolen thousands of dollars from Meridian Corporation and diverted funds from several charitable organizations. More slides appeared. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, jewelry purchases, all paid for with money that wasn't theirs. But here's the really interesting part, I said, clicking to the final slide. The man in these photos is married to someone else. His wife had no idea where their money was going until she hired a forensic accountant. The last image showed Rafe's marriage certificate, dated 12 years ago. The room erupted in murmurs and gasps. I could see Tara and Rafe trying to push through the crowd toward the exit, but people were blocking their path, staring and pointing. I handed the microphone back to the stunned event coordinator and walked calmly toward the door. As I passed their table, I leaned down and whispered to Tara, "Now everyone knows who you really are." Outside the ballroom, I found Lisa waiting by the elevators. "How did it go?" she asked. "See for yourself." Through the glass doors, we could see chaos inside. Security guards were escorting Tara and Rafe out a side exit while Patricia Wells was on her phone, probably calling the company's legal department. "Rebecca filed the criminal charges this afternoon," Lisa said. "Fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion. The FBI will probably want to talk to your wife, too." "What about Rafe?" "His consulting business is finished. His bank accounts are frozen, and I'm taking him for everything he has left." We rode the elevator down in comfortable silence. In the lobby, I saw Rafe arguing with hotel security while Tara sat on a bench, crying into her hands. "Excuse me," I said, walking over to them. Rafe looked up, his face red with anger. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" "I think I'm thorough. This isn't over. Actually, it is." I handed him an envelope. "Restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of me, my workplace, or my residence." He stared at the papers. "You can't do this." "I just did." I turned to Tara. "The divorce papers are on your kitchen table. Sign them, or we'll see you in court." As I walked away, I heard her call out, "Ethan, wait!" I didn't turn around. Outside, the city was alive with Friday night energy. People were heading to bars and restaurants, starting their weekends, living their lives. I felt lighter than I had in months. My phone rang. It was Marcus. "Dude, you're all over social media. Someone live-streamed your presentation." "Really?" "Yeah, it's going viral. D-Earth Charity Gala Revenge is trending." I smiled. "Perfect. What's your next move?" I looked up at the hotel where I'd been living for the past month, then at the city skyline beyond. I think it's time to find a permanent place, somewhere with a view. And Tara? Tara made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. The thunderstorm hit the city at exactly 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in October. I know the precise time because I was watching the weather radar on my laptop when the first lightning bolt illuminated the sky outside my hotel suite. I'd been living at the Meridian Hotel for 6 weeks now, and the suite had become more than just a temporary residence. It was my fortress, my sanctuary, and tonight, it was going to be my stage for the final act. The divorce papers had been sitting unsigned on Tara's kitchen table for 2 weeks. My lawyer had called that morning to tell me she was stalling, probably hoping I'd get tired of the legal fees and agree to a more favorable settlement. She was wrong. Lisa Sinclair's divorce from Rafe had been finalized the previous Friday. She'd taken him for everything, the house, the cars, the investments, even his collection of expensive watches. The criminal charges were still pending, but his life as he'd known it was over. Tara had been evicted from our old apartment 3 days ago when she couldn't make the rent without her salary. According to Gus, she and Rafe were staying in a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, pooling their remaining resources and probably planning their next move. I was making coffee when the hotel's security desk called. "Mr. Cole, there are 2 people here who say they need to see you urgently, a Tara Cole and a Rafe Sinclair." I looked out at the storm raging beyond my windows. Lightning was flashing every few seconds, and the rain was coming down in sheets. "Send them up," I said. I had about 5 minutes before they reached the 32nd floor. I used the time to activate the security system I'd installed the previous week, cameras in every room, audio recording, and a direct feed to a secure server. Everything that happened in the next hour would be documented and stored permanently. I also sent a quick text to Lisa. "They're here, starting the stream now." The live stream had been her idea. "If you're going to end this," she'd said, "you might as well let everyone watch." The knock on my door came at exactly 10:15 p.m. I opened it to find 2 people who looked like they'd been through hell. Tara's hair was stringy and unwashed, her clothes wrinkled and cheap. Rafe looked even worse, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing a jacket that had seen better days. "Hello, Tara. Rafe." I stepped aside. "Come in out of the rain." They entered warily, water dripping from their clothes onto the marble floor of the entryway. The contrast between their appearance and the luxury of the suite was stark and intentional. "Nice place," Rafe said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I like it. Can I offer you something to drink? Coffee? Water?" "We're not here for a social visit," Tara said. "No, I imagine you're not." I walked to the living area and sat down in one of the leather chairs. "What can I do for you?" They remained standing, probably trying to maintain some psychological advantage. It wasn't working. "You've destroyed our lives," Rafe said. "Have I? That's interesting. I seem to remember you 2 destroying your own lives. I just made sure everyone could see it happening. The criminal charges, the public humiliation, the financial ruin, that was all you. Actually, the criminal charges came from Lisa's attorney. The public humiliation was a result of your own choices. And the financial ruin?" I shrugged. "That's what happens when you steal money and get caught." Tara stepped forward. "We want you to make it stop." "Make what stop?" "The harassment, the legal pressure, the systematic destruction of everything we try to build." I laughed. "Tara, I haven't thought about you in weeks. I've been too busy with my promotion." "Your promotion?" "VP of Information Technology. Patricia Wells announced it yesterday. Apparently, my work uncovering corporate fraud impressed the board of directors." The color drained from her face. "You're lying." "Am I? Check the company website. My new bio went live this morning." Rafe was pacing now, his agitation growing. "This has to end, Cole. We're prepared to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "Tara signs the divorce papers. We both leave the city. You never see us again. And in return? You call off your dogs. No more criminal charges, no more financial investigations, no more public humiliation." I pretended to consider it. "That's an interesting proposal, but I have a better idea." "What?" I stood up and walked to the window wall, looking out at the storm. Lightning was still flashing regularly, illuminating the city below in stark black and white. "You're going to tell me the truth. All of it. How long the affair lasted, how much money you stole, what your real plans were, everything." "Why would we do that?" "Because if you don't, I'm going to destroy what's left of your lives so completely that you'll wish you'd never been born." The room was quiet, except for the sound of rain against the windows and the distant rumble of thunder. Tara broke first. "It started 8 months ago." "Where?" "At Monica's birthday party. You were out of town on that consulting project. And? Rafe was there. We talked. He told me he was divorced, that he was lonely. We had a few drinks, and you went home with him. She nodded, tears starting to flow. It was supposed to be just one night, but then he kept calling, and I kept seeing him. When did you decide to leave me? I never decided that. Not really. I didn't know how to stop. I turned to Rafe. Your turn. How much money did you steal from your wife? I didn't steal anything. It was my money, too. The offshore accounts, the fake business expenses, the charitable donations that never reached their destinations. His shoulders sagged. About $200,000 over 3 years. And the company expenses? Tara answered. $15,000, maybe $20,000. So, between the two of you, you embezzled over $200,000 to fund your affair. They were both crying now, the weight of their crimes finally sinking in. Here's what's going to happen, I said, walking back to face them. You're going to confess everything to the FBI. You're going to cooperate fully with their investigation. You're going to make restitution for every penny you stole. And if we do that? Rafe asked. Then maybe you'll only spend 5 years in prison instead of 10? You can't be serious. Do I look like I'm joking? Lightning flashed outside, illuminating their faces in the stark light. They looked like what they were, two people who'd gambled everything on a lie and lost. There's something else, I said. Something I think you should know before you make your final decision. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. The live stream had over 50,000 viewers and climbing. Everything you've said tonight has been broadcast live to the internet. Your confessions, your admissions of guilt, everything. Tara's face went white. You recorded us? I streamed you. There's a difference. Recording implies I might delete it someday. Rafe lunged toward me, but I was ready. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into the coffee table. He went down hard, scattering magazines and knocking over a lamp. I wouldn't recommend trying that again, I said calmly. Hotel security is watching the feed, and they're very protective of their VIP guests. He struggled to his feet, his face red with humiliation and rage. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I walked to the door and opened it. You can leave now. The elevator is to your right. They stumbled toward the exit, broken and defeated. As they reached the threshold, Tara turned back one last time. I really did love you once, she said. I know, I replied. That's what made this so easy. After they left, I poured myself a glass of wine and returned to the window. The storm was beginning to pass, the lightning becoming less frequent, the thunder more distant. My phone buzzed with notifications from the live stream, messages of support, congratulations, and amazement at what they had witnessed. The story would be everywhere by morning. I raised my glass to the city lights below. Best suite I ever booked. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the streets clean for tomorrow.